Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a really chilling piece of narrative fiction. It's titled Echoes of Flat 404.
Yeah, this one is genuinely terrifying.
It really is. And the mission for this deep dive, well, we aren't just going to recount a ghost story for you. We're going to dissect the very anatomy of a haunting.
Right, getting into the actual mechanics of it.
Exactly. We'll be looking closely at how our own reliance on logic can actually become a deadly trap. And, how the isolation of modern life makes us incredibly vulnerable to things that know exactly how to listen.
That's a great way to put it.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because usually when we talk about a diagnostic tool in any field, there is this expectation of absolute precision.
Yeah.
Like, think about an X-ray. You fall, your arm hurts, the X-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at it. It's undeniable.
Right, it gives you objective data.
Exactly. And in the world of audio engineering, which is so central to our source material today, you have a very similar expectation. You look at a waveform on a digital monitor, and a massive spike represents a loud noise.
And a flat line represents silence.
Right. It's binary. It's safe.
Yeah, we really rely on that sort of data to categorize reality. I mean, if we can measure something, if we can put it on a screen and point to it, we feel in control.
We feel like we own it.
Exactly. And the narrative of Echoes of Flat 404 is a masterful study in psychological horror, specifically because it shatters that diagnostic machinery. It takes our trust in our own senses and, well, it actively weaponizes it against us.
The premise here is just absolutely gripping. We are following this protagonist named Aarav. He is a freelance audio editor, and he is a staunch rationalist.
Very much so.
Like, to him, the supernatural simply does not exist. Every bump in the night is just a vibrating pipe, or maybe an electrical fault, or just a rogue sound wave bouncing off a hard surface.
He has an explanation for everything.
He does. So when he moves into Shiv Residency, which is this aging, really neglected apartment building, he thinks he's hit the jackpot.
From a purely practical standpoint, his decision makes total sense. The rent is incredibly cheap.
Oh yeah, super cheap.
And the neighborhood is completely removed from the city center. Plus, and this is crucial for someone who edits sound all day, there are no nosy neighbors around to interrupt his workflow.
Right, he wants the isolation. And the text spends a lot of time establishing the ambient noise of this environment. The building is practically a living organism.
It really is.
The acoustics described in the text are just fantastic. You have these elevators groaning like dying machines, ceiling fans endlessly clicking through the night, pipes inside the walls whispering like distant conversations.
But to him, it's nothing.
Exactly. For Aarav, this is just background noise. I mean, think about the sounds your own house makes at 2 in the morning. You probably dismiss the house settling or the fridge humming, just like Aarav does. He's trained his brain to filter out all that audio clutter.
And that professional expertise is actually his fatal flaw.
Oh, so?
Well, Aarav believes his ability to rationalize sound makes him immune to danger. He sits in his apartment, viewing himself as this totally objective observer of the building's quirky acoustics. He wears his logic like a suit of armor.
I have to say, I found myself getting genuinely frustrated with him while reading this.
Oh, completely understandable.
It reminds me of a highly skilled IT expert who spots a glaring, destructive computer virus on their network. Instead of unplugging the machine, isolating the network, and running for the hills, they sit there arrogantly thinking,
Well, I can debug this myself.
Yes, they think, I know the code. Doesn't his absolute reliance on logic actually make him the perfect victim here? I mean, he flat out refuses to see the danger right in front of him because he's convinced he understands the rules.
He is. And logic can provide a profoundly false sense of security. When a person is convinced that every single anomaly has a rational explanation, they will stick around much longer than their primal survival instincts would normally permit.
They ignore all the red flags.
Exactly. You stop viewing anomalies as threats to flee from, and you start viewing them as puzzles to be solved. And in this specific building, staying to solve the puzzle is a lethal mistake.
Yeah, and that transition from annoying ambient noise to a highly targeted anomaly happens incredibly fast. We move past his illusion of safety on just the second night.
It doesn't take long at all.
Not at all. At exactly 2:13 a.m., Aarav wakes up, and he hears someone crying. A woman. It's described as soft, weak, and broken, just echoing faintly through the ceiling.
Just a terrible sound to wake up to.
Right. So he checks his phone, and it's 2:13 a.m. The crying lasts for exactly 3 minutes, and then it just stops. completely dead, total silence.
Naturally, his first instinct is to apply that logic we just discussed.
Hmm.
He assumes someone left a television on or, maybe there's a couple fighting upstairs.
So he just goes back to sleep.
He does. But the next night, the phenomenon repeats. The exact same crying, starting at exactly 2:13 a.m., lasting for exactly 3 minutes.
See, this is where I have to jump in and really challenge the interpretation of what this is.
Okay, let's hear it.
The text presents this as a highly specific event. You've got the identical audio, the precise start time, the strict 3-minute duration. But wait, couldn't this just be a residual haunting?
Ah, like the stone tape theory.
Exactly. In paranormal folklore, you always hear about stone tape theory. It's the idea that traumatic events are essentially recorded by the environment and they just play back on a loop, sort of like an old VHS tape. So how do we know this entity has actual agency and isn't just an environmental glitch?
That's a great question. But if we look at the mechanics of stone tape theory, those playbacks are usually tied to anniversaries, specific weather patterns, or maybe emotional triggers. They are chaotic.
Right, they aren't usually this regimented.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is the sheer mechanical precision of it. It behaves like a programmed loop, yes, but a loop designed with utility. A residual haunting ignores the observer.
It just plays to an empty room.
Right. But this phenomenon, as we soon discover, is highly reactive. It's not random sorrow trapped in the walls. It's a calculated trap designed to lure someone out of their safe space.
And it definitely works as a lure. Aarav finally steps out into the hallway. The building is dead silent, but the crying is clearly coming from the 4th floor, specifically from flat 404.
The dreaded flat 404.
Yeah. He walks down this dark hallway that all the other residents actively avoid. The door to flat 404 is covered in dust, old police tape, and these faded warning stickers.
Just a massive warning
A
sign.
huge one. He stands there and he actually hears the woman whisper, "Please," from inside. But before he can even touch the doorknob, the elevator opens behind him.
And he gets caught.
Yes, the building watchman catches him, and the guy is absolutely terrified.
The watchman functions as the threshold guardian of this narrative. He physically pulls Aarav away from the door, drags him down to the lobby, and literally locks the main stairwell gate.
He's not messing around.
Not at all. He is the keeper of the building's grim history. He holds the context that Aarav's logic is completely missing.
And the history he drops on Aarav is incredibly dark. He tells him flat 404 has been completely empty for 11 years. A married couple lived there, Vikram and Rhea Sethi. One night, the neighbors heard horrific screaming.
Just terrible.
Yeah. The police broke in the next morning. They found Vikram dead in the bed and Rhea hanging from the bathroom ceiling.
And beyond that tragic and violent backstory, the watchman delivers a really chilling caveat. He establishes a rule for the building that elevates this beyond just a simple murder-suicide echo.
Oh, right, the rule.
He tells Aarav, every person who hears the crying eventually hears something worse.
Okay, if I'm renting a cheap apartment and the watchman tells me that story, I am packing my bags, breaking my lease, and sleeping in my car that very night.
Most people would.
But Aarav doesn't leave. His rational mind is still fighting for dominance. He assumes it's weird acoustics, or maybe he thinks the watchman is playing an elaborate prank to scare off a new tenant.
So he decides to stay awake with his professional audio equipment. He is going to gather data.
Which is insane.
It is. He is trying to capture the supernatural using the tools of the natural world. It is the ultimate act of hubris.
And what he catches is absolutely terrifying. At 2:13 a.m., he hits record on his interface. But the live playback through his headphones is all distorted with heavy static interference.
It's messing with his gear.
Yeah, and then, pushing right through the static, the crying woman's voice comes through much clearer. She says, "Please," and then she distinctly whispers, "Aarav."
This represents a massive escalation. It's the total breach of his anonymity.
He hasn't told anyone his name. He interacts with no one. He is totally isolated in this building. But the audio file proves he isn't crazy.
So he starts digging into the past.
Right. He researches the building online the next morning, looking for any local news on Flat 404. He finds mostly closed case articles mentioning mental illness and an unstable marriage. But there is one glaring detail.
The missing tape.
Yes. A police recording from the night the officers entered that apartment 11 years ago somehow disappeared from the official evidence locker.
The missing tape suggests that whatever occurred in that room defied institutional logic so severely that the evidence either had to be buried by the authorities or it simply vanished on its own.
It's just gone.
Gone. And notice the shift in the haunting's parameters after Aarav captures his own name on his recording equipment. The entity is no longer confined to the fourth floor. It begins invading his personal environment.
It becomes a full-on home invasion of sound. 3 knocks start hitting the inside of his own walls every night at 2:13 a.m.
Inside his walls.
Yeah. He hears whispers moving through the building's plumbing, like insects crawling through the pipes. Then comes the most aggressive digital manipulation yet. He's sitting at his desk editing client audio, and his studio monitors violently crackle to life with static, and a voice says, "Don't let him in."
It is bypassing his professional tools entirely and demonstrating complete dominance over his domain. And shortly after this, the entity actually provides the missing piece of the puzzle.
The envelope.
Right, an envelope is slipped under his front door.
He opens the envelope, and inside is an old, dusty cassette tape labeled Flat 404 Original Police Entry. It's the missing evidence from 11 years ago.
And he plays it.
He plays it, and the text describes what really happened that night. There's heavy analog static. A nervous officer logs the time at 2:16 a.m. You hear their footsteps entering the apartment.
Building the tension.
Exactly. Then another officer stammers, "Sir, the walls!" There's a massive bang. And then a deep, distorted, entirely non-human voice demands, "Help me right out here!"
Just terrifying.
Cops start shouting in panic. Something scratches violently inside the drywall. A man screams, and the tape brutally cuts out.
It's an overwhelming sensory assault, perfectly preserved on magnetic tape.
I really need to stop here and challenge Aarav's mindset again.
Go for it.
He is an audio expert. He has literally just listened to a verified police recording of an impossible, hostile, demonic threat. His own expensive equipment is picking up his name whispered from an empty room. Why doesn't he run? You mentioned earlier that logic is a trap, but his logic should be completely gone at this point.
It is. I would argue logic has been replaced by fear, absolutely, but that fear is being overridden by what we might call the sunk cost fallacy of curiosity.
Okay, let's define that for a second.
Sure. The sunk cost fallacy is a cognitive bias, where people continue investing in a losing proposition, whether it's money, time, or effort, simply because they've already invested so much into it.
Like when you sit through a terrible 2-hour movie just because you already paid for the ticket.
Exactly. Aarav has invested his entire worldview, his entire identity, into understanding audio. When he is presented with an audio anomaly that shatters his reality, his psychological need to understand the mechanism of that anomaly is stronger than his biological instinct to survive.
He just can't let it go.
He cannot walk away from an unsolved frequency.
And that morbid curiosity drives him straight into the trap. It's exactly 2:10 a.m. when he finally gives in, goes upstairs, and actually breaks the police seal on Flat 404.
He crosses the line.
He stands outside the door. The flickering hallway light is buzzing overhead. He hears 3 knocks, but this time they're coming from inside the sealed apartment.
The juxtaposition of the sounds he hears at the door is brilliant and deeply unsettling.
It really is.
He hears the woman's voice through the wood begging, "Please help me," and simultaneously warning him he's listening. Don't open the door.
But then there's that other voice.
Right, cutting right through that plea is a deep, wet, angry male voice growling, "Found you!" followed by a violent bang against the door.
And he pushes the door open anyway. I mean, come on. The crime scene inside is this impossible paradox.
The physical space is holding on to 2 contradictory states of being at once. It smells heavily of rot, and the furniture is buried under more than a decade of undisturbed dust.
But right in the middle of all that decay, sitting on the coffee table, there's a cup of tea that is still steaming warm.
A fresh cup of tea.
Yes. And there are fresh, wet, bare footprints stretching across the dusty floor, leading straight into the master bedroom. The walls of the hallway are just covered in hundreds of frantic, overlapping scratches repeating a single phrase.
Don't look inside the walls.
Yes.
This represents the architecture of madness. The warm tea and the fresh footprints indicate a present, active intelligence waiting for him. It's setting a stage.
So he follows those footprints to the bedroom. Tucked behind an old, heavy wooden wardrobe, he finds a tiny hidden door built directly into the drywall. It's locked from the outside.
And what's next to it?
Lying right next to it is a damaged notebook. It's Rhea Sethi's diary. The one surviving entry provides the aha moment of this entire deep dive.
The diary lays bare the rules of the predator. It reads, "It learns voices first, then faces. Vikram opened the wall door 3 nights ago. Something came out. Now it wears his face."
Here's where it gets really interesting. When I read that line, a modern technological parallel clicked for me instantly.
What is it?
This ancient entity operates exactly like a biological deepfake AI. Think about how we train artificial intelligence today. If you want to train an AI to clone someone's voice, what do you absolutely need?
You need training data.
Exactly, you need training data. The loop of the crying woman at 2:13 a.m. wasn't just a spooky ghost playing a record, it was a phishing
Oh,
scam.
wow.
It was bait. The entity was fishing for audio. When Aarav stood outside his door with his recorder, when he spoke back to the ceiling, when he asked, "Who are you?" he was actively feeding the machine his vocal profile.
That is a brilliant comparison. Taking that a step further, the crying operates exactly like the glowing lure of an anglerfish in the deep ocean.
Right, drawing you in.
It mimics vulnerability to attract curious prey. Once Aarav spoke, he gave the entity the exact acoustic blueprint it required. It processed his vocal data, which is why the whispering voices he heard in his apartment escalated, eventually morphing into mimicking his own voice perfectly.
And once it has the voice, the diary says it needs the face. Aarav is standing by that hidden door, totally frozen. A whisper right next to his ear says, "Don't let it see you."
Just chilling.
Then, from inside the hidden room in the wall, he hears his own voice pleading, "Aarav, help me."
The psychological horror peaks at this moment. The entity uses his own identity as a weapon against him, fracturing his sense of self before initiating any physical attack.
The hidden door bursts open. Absolute darkness spills out, and the entity emerges into the bedroom. It's described as too tall, far too thin, with arms bent in unnatural, broken directions.
A physical manifestation of the glitch.
Exactly. Its face is a shifting, melting blur of features until finally it locks in. The flesh sets. It becomes Aarav's face.
Perfectly. Exactly.
And it smiles.
The manifestation of the doppelganger is the ultimate violation. The predator has consumed his identity.
Aarav absolutely bolts. He sprints out of the apartment and down the fourth-floor hallway. The lights are flickering violently. Behind him, he hears these slow, heavy, deliberate, dragging footsteps.
It's not rushing. It knows it has him.
Right. He reaches the elevator, the doors slide open, and the creature is already inside, wearing his face and smiling with this impossibly wide grin.
Nowhere to go.
So he runs for the stairwell, but the very architecture of the building turns against him. He runs past the doors in the hallway, and the numbers morph. They suddenly read 404, 405, 406, 407, and then they all change. Every single door in the hallway becomes 404.
The building itself has become complicit. It's acting as an extension of the entity, a labyrinth designed with no exit.
And right as the crying surrounds him from every direction, he sees Rhea Sethi, the ghost of the woman who died 11 years ago.
The final warning.
Her neck is unnaturally twisted, her skin is pale gray. She delivers the final crushing exposition of the story. She tells him, it copies people. It lives in empty places. Forgotten places, it listens for lonely people.
That's the key right there.
And as the creature's dragging footsteps get closer, she steps back into the dark and says, "You answered it, and now it knows you."
That dialogue is incredibly heavy with implication. It explicitly targets isolation.
This actually raises a huge question for me. Is Rhea's ghost actively trying to save Aarav by warning him? Or is she just another trapped echo? Like a residual recording playing on a loop, just like the entity uses recorded voices.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how the building functions within the themes of the text, I'd argue she is a trapped echo.
Really?
Yeah. The entire Shiv Residency acts as a living tape recorder. Rhea is permanently imprinted on the magnetic tape of flat 404. Her warning is genuine to the moment she died, but now it's just part of the environmental static.
Wow, that's incredibly bleak.
It is. The true horror isn't her warning. It's why the entity chose Aarav in the first place. It preys specifically on isolation. It hunts lonely people because a lonely person's the perfect victim to replace.
Because no one will notice.
Exactly. Think about it. If you have no connections, no nosy neighbors, no close family ties checking in, who is going to notice if you suddenly act a little differently?
Yeah.
Who will notice if the voice on the other end of the phone isn't actually you?
Wow. And that brings us to the chilling aftermath of the narrative. The next morning, the police finally arrive at the building because other residents reported screams during the night.
They finally show up.
Yeah, too late. They enter flat 404. It's completely empty. There's no Aarav, there's no body, there's no blood, there's absolutely no sign of a struggle.
Just vanished.
The only thing left behind is his expensive audio recorder lying on the dusty bedroom floor, still running.
It provides the final data point of the experiment.
The police listen to the final 27 seconds of the recording. Through heavy static, you hear Aarav's terrified voice warning anyone who finds the tape. He hyperventilates and says, "Don't listen to the crying."
His last words.
Then you hear 3 heavy knocks, screams, and then total silence. Finally, another voice speaks calmly into the microphone. It is a perfect, flawless mimic of Aarav's voice. And it just says, "I found someone else."
It's a terrifying conclusion because the cycle hasn't ended. It has evolved. The entity has successfully downloaded a completely new identity.
So, what does this all mean? Let's connect this back to you, listening right now. Think about how we all live today.
We're so disconnected.
We consume so much media and information in total isolation. You're probably listening to this deep dive right now through headphones, maybe sitting in your car or alone in a room. We trust the voices we hear through our screens and speakers implicitly.
We just assume there is a human consciousness on the other side of the audio wave.
Exactly.
And this raises a deeply unsettling question. Let's look at the parameters the story has established. The diary stated, this entity hunts for lonely people in forgotten places, like abandoned apartment hallways.
Right.
But the entity is highly adaptive. It learns. It just flawlessly duplicated Aarav, who is a modern, tech-savvy freelance audio editor. It now possesses his face, his voice, and presumably full access to his apartment.
Oh no.
What happens if this ancient mimetic entity decides it doesn't need to wait in a dusty, abandoned hallway anymore?
It has all his gear now.
Exactly. It now has Aarav's computer. It has his high-end audio editing software. It has his high-speed internet connection.
That's a terrifying thought.
What if it stops hunting in physical spaces and starts perfectly replicating voices to hunt its next victims through the digital void? It could reach out through online calls or voice notes, whispering to lonely people across the entire world all at once.
That is genuinely horrifying. It takes that initial expectation of diagnostic precision we talked about at the very beginning, that safe binary waveform on an audio monitor, and turns it into a perfectly disguised predator waiting inside your headphones.
It really does.
Think about that the next time you hear a voice you think you recognize, calling out to you from the digital dark.